Hi, I'm Isabel.
Hi, I'm Pete.
For our Anthropology 21 video essay, we decided to discuss how race and racism are represented in children's books from the early 1900s to now.
We will show how perspectives on race and racism change over time in children's books.
Race and racism in children's books started off as overtly racist, then progressively moved on to promoting equality. We end with a book that shows that although perspectives may have changed, racism is still prevalent today, but in a different way.
For our first book, we'll start with a book that was written in 1911, The Secret Garden. In this book, the main character, a white child named Mary, showcases racist views of the times. When Mary moves back to England from India, her white maid jokes that she thought that Mary would be black. Mary then throws a tantrum and says that blacks are not people. Her maid has similar views and says that Mary's bad behavior is due to there being a lot of blacks in India instead of respectable white people. This book reinforces the idea that dark-skinned people are lesser than white people and not respectable. This is a popular story, adapted into films and plays, showing that many people have been exposed to these ideas.
The next book we'll look at is Tintin in America from 1932. Tintin is a reporter on a trip to America and encounters Blackfeet Native Americans. They abduct him and threaten to torture him. This isn't the only stereotype that the book presents, though. Tintin also refers to the Native Americans as Redskins, and their town is called Redskin City. It portrays Native Americans as violent savages using pre-existing stereotypes. Most of us know the story of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from the movies, but most of us don't know that the original story contained colonial ideology. In the original book written in 1964, the Oompa Loompas were actually enslaved pygmies from Africa. When the children first encounter the Oompa Loompas, they make comments about how short and dark they are. Mr. Wonka explains to the children that he found them deep in the African jungle, unable to fend for themselves and starving. He convinces them to work for him, and in return he feeds them cacao beans, essentially saving their lives. The way Mr. Wonka explains his actions mirrors the way that European colonists justified enslaving other races. They thought that their actions were helping and saving other races.
The book, Separate is Never Equal, was written in 2014, and it takes a modern-day perspective on past events in order to teach children that segregation is wrong. It tells the story of Latino communities in the 1940s fighting segregation for schools because the white schools were superior to the Mexican schools. This perspective is important because it teaches children that no race deserves better treatment over another and that equality is something to be fought for. The last book we'll look at is A Fine Dessert, written in 2015, and the New York Times named it one of the best illustrated books of 2015. It tells the story of a recipe being passed down 4 centuries and 4 families. The cooking of the dessert, Blackberry Fool, is depicted as a fun and rewarding activity, except in the setting in which a slave mother and slave daughter do it. Their preparation of the dessert is shown in a positive light, even though they don't get to enjoy the dessert they were forced to make, and have to hide in a closet to enjoy the scraps. The depiction of slavery in a kind of positive light takes away the seriousness of slavery and makes light of their situation. The idea of slavery not being that bad that is shown in the story is a dangerous idea to teach to children.
The 5 books we've looked at all portray a representation of race and racism to children. We've seen examples of harmful stereotypes, but also a positive way to approach race. These representations are dependent on the time period in which these books were written, and show how authors teach their own view of race to children through their books, even if it might not be explicit. The fact that a lot of these books are popular show how much of an impact these representations could have on the perspectives of people who read them.